beg to differ.
Good afternoon, Abuja. Thank you so much for staying tuned into your passionate, trustworthy, and conversational radio 95.1 Nigeria Info. And welcome to day 3 in the round of 16 of I Beg to Differ debate, season 2. We're smack in the middle of it. Well, we're there yet. By next week, it'll be right in the middle of it.
Exactly. Yes.
We're building the tempo gradually. Round 16 has been intense. We started on Monday and they brought the fire, they brought the energy, they brought the intellectual argument. And it's just been accelerating enough for people to like, you know what? I thought this other person was going to win. Oh, you thought wrong, because at the end of the day, the verdict, just tells a different story. But it's interesting to look at what the polls are saying, what opinion polls are saying, and what the judges say at the end of the day. Sometimes they agree, they collide. Other times, not
you think
so
you
bad.
know it all, but then the results say different things.
Yeah,
So.
but we need to remind people that also factors that are put into consideration, that we're looking at the point that you make. We're looking at the clarity of the points that you make. We're looking at your diction. We're looking at your confidence. The confidence you exude goes a long way to telling, because under style of presentation is a whole 10 marks, including your diction. So we're looking at that. And we're looking at how you can argue your opponent's point also. Because when you get to the rebuttal and then you tell us, my opponent said donkeys don't fly as high as horses. What do you mean by that? You've not made any point. You just highlighted what your opponent said. So the ability to counter-argue your opponent during the rebuttal goes a long way also to earning or losing you points. So yeah, we have the opening, we have the rebuttal, we have the closing. We also have a whole 10 mark for your style of presentation. I need to remind you that we have 3 judges. We have the chief judge, who is Majid Dahiru. He's a researcher, columnist, the tech team lead of Luxtera Leadership Foundation. We have Fidel Castro, a senior editor here, and we have Swat Dunia, who is also one of our judges, is a broadcast journalist with Nigeria Info FM. Each of these judges in the presentation round give, there's a total of 3 marks for presentation for each of the judges. The rebuttal, 3 marks for each of the judges. So presentation will have like over 9, rebuttal over 9, your closing over 9, because of 3 marks to each of the judges. Then your style of presentation, which also contains your diction, is a 10. So each of the judges, meaning 30. So when you hear you got a 20 or a 19 or 18 or perhaps like a 25, it's over 30 for the presentation. I just want you guys to understand how we're scoring them and what grades we're using at this point for people who are asking a lot of questions yesterday, just to put that out of the way. So if you're ready, we're ready for today, and we want to recognize our sponsors and our partners for the I Beg to Differ debate. And I want to believe the Deacon would help us run through them.
I would love
Take
to.
your time and appreciate them very well, because without them, it would have been a struggle also.
Yes, we have Hamza Lawal of Connected Development and Follow the Money, who's leading the sponsors for the season 2 of the I Beg to Differ debate. We also have Collier Angel, who deal on iPhone or phone accessories and IT gadgets. Happiness Computers, 313 Bureau de Change, Creative Fingers, Cakes and Bites in Life Camp, Number One Hotel, and 3J's Hotel and Apartments.
All right, they have been our support and our sponsors for I Beg to Differ. And I know that we have one who will be joining us pretty soon because we still need to provide our second place prize money and more. So we had talks with them and we're confident that by the end of the day, that deal will be sealed. Can't wait to announce our latest partner and sponsors here. So thank you very much for committing to I Beg to Differ. Our debaters are seated and ready to go. They were all here. They showed their color in the round of 32 and back to slug it out for the round of 16. And they'll be taking on this motion. Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. So help us introduce our debaters.
All right, our debaters for today, we have OMALE Ejile Kristine, who is 15, from Government Science Secondary School Piakasa in Maitama, and MARYAM CHIWAREN, also 15, from OMALE School right here in Abuja as well. They'll be looking at Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. We are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at Nigeria Info Abuja. You can go on there to watch the show live and be a part of the conversation as well. We haven't spoken about our addiction George.
Addiction George,
Right
Olivia,
here.
right in my face. And she wore a t-shirt with Olivia on it.
Ooh.
And yeah, Olivia is our addiction George. She is in the studio with us and would also give a moment to just share her thoughts on the addictions when they're done with the rounds for this set. So if you're ready, we're ready. We'll hand you, the debaters, a piece of paper each, and that will determine what side of the argument they will be on. So ladies, do you have it?
So let's have you open the paper and we can know what side you're on. When you mention your side or state your side, please state your name alongside as well.
MARYAM CHIWAREN, and I support the motion.
I'm OMALE EJILE and I beg to differ.
All right, thank you.
So Miriam, we'll start all the rounds with you. The presentation, the rebuttal, and the closing. We'll start with you and then give OMALE EJILE Kristine the time to respond, or to give our own presentation also. So don't forget, 3 minutes each for each of the rounds. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, and your time starts now.
Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General, once said, and I quote, "Climate change is a defining issue of our time, and we are at a defining moment. We face a direct existential threat." Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, timekeeper, fellow co-debater, esteemed audience, good day. I am MARYAM CHIWAREN, a year 11 student from OMALE School. I stand before you today to passionately affirm the motion that Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. What is climate change? According to the United Nations, climate change refers to a long-term shift in temperatures and weather patterns, which can occur naturally due to changes in the sun's activities or large volcanic eruptions. However, human activities have greatly accelerated this phenomenon, necessitating the need for urgent action from governments worldwide. Nigeria is one of the largest oil-producing countries and a key global player. When we talk about climate change, I have a few points to present in order to support the motion. First, policy implementation and commitments. Nigeria has signed agreements such as the Paris Climate Accord in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that are becoming a global threat. That are becoming a threat in climate change and is becoming a very huge global problem. Secondly, we have the renewable energy investments. Nigeria has shown that climate change is a very huge problem that is affecting countries worldwide, and have begun to invest in renewable energy sources such as wind, solar, and hydroelectric power. Nigeria have begun to invest in solar means to reduce the effects of gas emissions and climate change, showing that Nigeria is already starting to play a crucial role in climate change, in the mitigation of climate change. Thirdly, we have afforestation and environmental conservation efforts. Afforestation. Nigeria is taking key steps in planting trees in order to reduce the amount of carbon waste that is produced in the atmosphere on a daily basis due to fumes and other factors that affect our climate. For example, a standard car produces fumes in a day, which causes damage to the ozone layer, which increases the heat of the sun. Thank you.
All right, Maryam CHIWAREN there from Olumawo School in Abuja started off with the opening, and we're now on to OMALE EJILE KRISTINE.
And your time starts now.
Floods drown our homes, pollution chokes our airs, and we gradually see our forests vanish. Yet you say Nigeria is doing well. Nigeria is losing in the fight against climate change, and there's nothing you can tell me today to prove that it is not. With this, I say good day, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, my moderator, my worthy opponents, ladies and gentlemen. I am OMALE KRISTINE from the prestigious Government Science Secondary School, Maitama, here to oppose the motion which states that Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. Here are my points to give credence to this discourse. First of all, on the funds, Nigeria only invests 1% of its annual budget to climate projects, unlike the 15% that has been advised by the American Union. Underfinancing these projects cripples Nigeria's capability to fight climate change. Furthermore, gas flares. Do you know that Nigeria still remains the 7th country that has the largest flare? While the Nigerian gas flare commercialization project catches dust, where is the urgency? Where is the change? We are contributing to carbon emissions globally, which is not good. Moving on, over reliance. The $20 billion Dangote refinery prioritize fossil fuels than renewables. This has contributed to many disasters like carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, degraded lands, which is not good. Countries like Somalia and Saudi Arabia that venture into renewables are moving forward, whereas Nigeria clings to it like a drunkard to its bottle. Furthermore, production of waste. Nigeria produces an amount of 32 billion waste. How? That is insane. Why would our country produce 32 billion wastes? It has contributed to loss of lives. Many people have left their homes due to the increase in pollution in areas that they live, and this is something that is not good. Moving on, corruption. Do you know that most of the funds that have been given by international organizations are not implemented into climate projects? They are being stolen by people, and this is something that has been happening in Nigeria for over decades. Something that has been going on, and we need to come against it. Moving on awareness. How many Nigerians are aware of the disadvantages of climate change? We are educated, but what about those in the rural areas who do not know anything about climate change? How do you want them to understand the effects and the disadvantages of what they are doing? Moving on, lack of implementation. There has been bans in states like Lagos and Abuja on policies, single plastic policies, but where are the implementations? Where are the efforts to make that ban stand? Bans without a practical step are just symbolic. They don't do anything for us. They are just written on piece of papers. They are not implemented. Moving on, I'll talk about funding. Nigeria has a lot of contributions from international relationships like the African Development Banks and World Bank. But do you see them being implemented? Do you see them being put in place to reduce climate change? These are things that we need to look into and understand that Nigeria is not doing enough. Thank you.
All right, so they have started things off nicely, giving us their perspective, why they argue and support the side of the motion they are on, that Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. We'll give them 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Because we're getting to the rebuttal. It'll be interesting to know how much of your opponent point you can tear to shreds this afternoon to see if they hold any solid argument at the end of today. And we're going to start with Maryam, who supports the motion. Maryam, you would get 3 minutes to do that.
And your time starts now.
I remain Maryam CHIWAREN. As you all know, change does not happen overnight. Change occurs in a gradual process. My opponent mentioned underfunds. Nigeria has known that climate change is a problem that is affecting us as a country, and has begun to create funds and implement laws in which we can use to combat climate change. For example, the Paris the Paris Climate Accord that I mentioned is an agreement that Nigeria signed in order to combat climate change as a problem that is affecting us as a nation. Secondly, you mentioned unawareness. As far as unawareness is concerned, Nigeria has begun to create awareness on climate change. In fact, including schools and educational systems to the problem that we call climate change. For example, my school have been invited to several programs in which we have been enlightened on the problem, on climate change as a problem. Another point you mentioned is implementation, lack of implementation. Nigeria is implementing laws that Nigeria is beginning to implement laws Nigeria is beginning to implement laws on climate change and has begun to show sustainable investment in different kinds in climate change as a problem. And you said deforestation and deforestation. Nigeria is beginning to plant trees in deserted areas, such as the northern desertification problem that we are facing now. Nigeria is beginning to tackle the problem from the root. Though it may look like the change there is no change. The progress is being made, and Nigeria is starting to show its seriousness in the problem climate change. Thank you.
Don't forget, we have an opinion poll put up on X where you can vote. Let us know your take. Let's get your vote also. The first set is underway, and I would need your take on how they're performing. So just go to our Twitter handle, which is X at Nigeria Info Abuja. All right, OMALE EJILE Kristine.
Your time starts now.
Still standing on existing protocols, I remain OMALE Kristine from the prestigious Government Science Secondary School, Maitama. My opponent today will have you believe that Nigeria is doing enough, but the fact still remains there. The truth still remains true. That Nigeria is not doing enough. It hasn't even begun to start trying to combat climate change. You talked about policy implementation and agreements. Nigeria have policies, no doubt, but where are the implementations? How many times do you see people talking about not throwing your plastic away in undesignated areas? Many agreements have been made, many policies have been put in place, but the implementations are not there. There is no strict policy, there is no strict rule that adheres to all these policies. Implementation needs to be done, and if it's not done, then how do you want people to understand the disadvantages of what they are doing? You also talked about renewable investments. Yes, the 10 MW and the 100 MW wind panels are initiatives that are meant to be put in place, but they have not yet been put in place. Nigeria needs 30,000 MWs, not 100 MWs or 10. This is something that the government should work towards. And then we rely on fossil fuels on a daily basis. Look at Dangote, who mostly relies on coal and on crude oil. This is something that makes our environment unclean and not good for everyone. You also talked about afforestation. Do you know that Nigeria loses up to 400,000 hectares of land yearly? That is 3.7% annually. This is something that many countries do not lose. They have implemented policy. The Nigerian forest policy is not being put in place. So where is the proof that Nigeria is doing enough? At this point in time, I feel like I've exhausted all your points, but I will continue to rebut. You talked about many things in Nigeria that are not being put in place. The gas flares. Nigeria is the 7th, and I repeat again, the 7th largest gas flares in the world, contributing to global carbon emission. It doesn't only affect Nigeria now, it's affecting people outside. We also talk about corruption. All the monies that are put in place, all the investment, the billions of dollars of nairas that are being put into the government for fighting against climate change are not being put in place. People end up stealing the money, and this is something our government needs to address. This is something our government needs to tackle. We also talk about unawareness. You talked about students being able, but if you're not a student, what about those in the rural areas who do not have access to education? How on earth would they know about the disadvantages of climate change? Yes, everyone has internet, but many people are still lacking. There's still a digital divide in our country, and this is something that we need to tackle. Education should be granted to all, not to some, especially towards the case of climate change. If you want an environment better for all. We need to understand that Nigeria have not started, and we need to move forward. Nigeria needs to implement and make sure that all these policies, the fundings and everything are put in place to fight against climate change. Because as far as I'm concerned, they have not started to do anything towards climate change. Thank you.
Mr. Peter, this is very interesting debate today and really firing. I love them. Thank you very much, Kim Itodo, Nigeria Info. All right, they have gone through their rebuttal and they will have 3 minutes each to give us a good closing. So, ladies, you know what happens in your closing. Every point you left out, any ideas that you think would help your case and your argument, this is the moment to present it. And you've got 3 minutes each for that.
And your time starts now.
Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, timekeeper, my fellow co-debater, and esteemed audience, let us face reality. As we all know, change does not occur overnight, like I said previously. But as Nigeria has begun to make this change, has begun to take these steps in tackling climate change, we should all appreciate the fact that Nigeria has started to implement laws and create and fund sustainable renewable energy sources such as wind, hydroelectric power, and solar. Nigeria is beginning to understand that climate change is becoming an economic problem. Like, for example, we have the Lagos flooding and the northern desertification that affects us now. We know that Nigeria is beginning to invest in renewable energy, making us reduce greenhouse gas flaring. I also mentioned afforestation and environmental conservation efforts. Nigeria is beginning to make efforts in environmental conservation by making laws. For example, you can go to a park and see that you talked about plastic. You can see that when you go to a park, there are designated places in order to dispose of waste efficiently. And it takes all of us to be able to tackle this problem. It's not a solution, but it's not a problem to be tackled by only the government. It takes everybody it takes all of us to be able to tackle this problem of climate change. Thank you.
All right, Maryam CHIWAREN there from Olumawo School in the Federal Capital, Abuja here, has given us her closing. OMALE EJILE KRISTINE, it's your moment now.
Your time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, while my opponents will have you believe that Nigeria is doing enough, let's face the hard truth. Nigeria has not started. Nigeria still remains the seventh gas flarer, releasing about an amount of 8 million cubic meters of CO2 annually, releasing 32 million dirt waste into the environment yearly. This is something that we all see, and this is something that we see on a daily basis in all our environments. You talk about the Nigerian climate policy, which is still on paper. It is not being implemented. Even the Rural Electrification Agency has not started work. We still, our renewables are only 5% of our electricity mix. This is something that we need to change. My opponent talks about change overnight, but let me tell you, actions speak louder than words. We want to see the action. We don't want to hear the talks. We don't want to see the news that this and this have been implemented when there's no action within our environments. You talked about afforestation. Nigeria has implemented afforestation, but you still realize that Nigeria still loses 4,000 hectares of land yearly. You talk about Lagos, and you talked about Lagos plastic waste and my plastic waste, but yet I still say it's creating awareness. People are not aware that is what it's meant to be. That is what is meant to be done, and that is what is not meant to be done. Things need to change. We need to build a nation. We need our nation to move forward in the fight against climate change for the future generation to live in a country that is peaceful, harmonic, and where I breathe in fresh air and I know that this is fresh air. Are we really going to watch and sit and wait for initiative to be put in place when there is no action taking place? Are we going to really watch our planets burn all in the name of policies that are not standing? Afforestation, fine. You have said the policies are there. Okay, put it in place. Make everyone understand the reason why they need to do what they do. Let corruption in our governments reduce. Yes, you said that it is not only by the government, but by the people. Okay, fine. Then teach the people what they need to do. Educate us. Even the youths now do not embody the benefits of reducing climate change within their areas. We need to come together. We need to solve the solution. We need to say no to climate change. And this is something that Nigeria needs to do now and not later. Thank you.
Alrighty. Yes. Says, good afternoon, everyone in the studio. The instructors of these ladies are doing a lot. Kudos to them. I think, all right, we'll leave what you think. Joseph Chinago, thank you very much. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook at Nigeria Info ABJ. You can check us out and let us know how you think they performed on X. Twitter at Nigeria Info ABJ as we seek your thoughts by voting there. Olivia Elsai is our addiction judge. Olivia, over to you.
Well done to both debaters. I'll start with you, CHIWAREN. Well done. So we're going to start with what you called your co-debater. You call her your fellow co-debater. Okay, if you're saying fellow debater, you can say that. Or you can say co-debater. But when you say fellow co-debater, that is a tautology and is wrong. Okay. The next observation is the word global, your pronunciation of the word. So the last syllable there, where you have your AL, you don't say global, it's bo. The sound there is a weak sound, so you go global and not global. Same with the word crucial and not crucial. And then you said like, for example. That's quite redundant. You should say for example or like. Overall, you scored a 2 for your diction. Well done. And then Christine, the word is development. The stress is on the second syllable. Development and not development. And then the people should be educated and not educated. Okay? Overall, you scored a 2.5 on your diction. Well done, both of you.
Yeah.
All right, we have heard from Olivia, our diction judge. Now we're the outcome from our judges as they put the numbers together. Don't forget that 3 points for their presentation, 3 points for their rebuttal, 3 points for their closing, and 10 points for their style. And each of the judges has 3, 3, 3, 10 to give each of the rounds that I mentioned. Let's look at some of the comments I've gotten already.
All right, you can join the conversation on YouTube and Facebook at Nigeria Info Abuja. There's a poll right now on our X page at Nigeria Info ABJ. You can go on there to be a part of that as well. Let us know who you think convinced you enough and requires your vote. Let's see what you're saying on the live feed right now on Facebook. Also, Francis, watching live from Enugu State, says greetings from here. And Sunday Daniel says, well done, ladies, to sit in front of the oracle and deacon, combine together and present your thoughts is not an easy task. Great talent we have here is what Madubike Emmanuel Chizoba shares on Facebook as well. That's what's happening on YouTube or on WhatsApp.
All right, let's see here. We have another Excel already. I thank God for this. Samuel from Gwagwa in Abuja mentioned that, well, people can't stop obsessing over Excel. The winner of our season 1 Nigeria Info debate from Government Science Secondary School, Pierre Kasa Meitama.
All right, Ibombe Husseini, they've all spoken well. I love the fire. And, okay, this grammar is like a tongue twister right now. The word.
It says what?
Can you see it?
Which of them?
Right here from Anum Stephen.
I can't see it.
Okay. Perennius?
Okay, that's if it's even spelled correctly. We have a diction judge here.
She will help us with that one. Okay, the ladies are really trying. It's not easy to defend Nigeria, is what Theophilos shares. Doing awesome. Proud of you is what Israel Egwe shares as well on our YouTube live stream. Okay, I think we've taken the other comments so far.
Yeah, interesting debate. Today, the debate is fire. I love them. Okay, Mr. Peter, we read your comment. Adebaro Wode says the kids should calm down and take it easy on themselves. Adebaro Wode says she's the winner of season 2 already. Wow, who is? Well, we had to find out as our returning officer has returned.
Please proceed. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're going to start off with the person who supports the motion, and that's MARYAM CHIWAREN. Supports the motion that Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. And looking at the aggregate score here for your presentation, you got a 9. In your rebuttal, the aggregate is a 6. Your closing aggregate is a 6. Your style of presentation is a 20. In total, you got a 41. And And OMALE EJILE KRISTINE, who begs to differ that Nigeria is doing enough to combat climate change. In your aggregate presentation, you got a 9 also. In your rebuttal, you got 8.5. In your closing, you got a 9. Your style of presentation earned you a 24, so you get a 50.5. 50.5. And I think officially she has, a half mark beats the second highest. She gets 50.5. I thought we had Anthony Oluwadamilola favor as the highest at 50. So your 0.5, your half mark, yes, takes you to the top
Half
of the
mark
table at this point in time.
point.
Oh, it sure does. But yeah, Maryam, your 41 is quite impressive because you did good also. However, you know how it is. We start off with the person who makes the highest mark and say you get to the round of 8. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Maryam, well, you did your best.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yes.
It depends on how the performance of others play out. For now, you have to take a bow. Thank you
All right,
very
well,
much for representing Olumau School in Abuja very well. You did them proud. I mean, there's the first round, you got a 50. And somehow I think there's a bit of butterfly in your stomach this time around. It's dropped to a 41, but you did good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Abuja, there you have it. OMALE EJILE KRISTINE from Government Science Secondary School, Piekasa Maitama, will proceed to the quarterfinal, the round of 8. And I think that's it for the first set of debaters. We'll get to see what the others, the second set, would present at the end of today. Once a very big thank you to our judges, Majid Dahiru, and to Fidel Castro, Swat Dunia, Olivia Osai, our diction judge, to our sponsors, where we have Hamza Lawal, the founder of Follow the Money and the CEO of Connected Development, for putting his money towards education issues and youth development. 313 Bureau de Change, thank you very much for partnering with us. I know they're putting the third place money down. And we have Happiness Computers. We have Collier Angel Nigeria Limited, who are supporting us with consolation prizes. And so our very young Maryam would get a phone, courtesy Collier Angel Nigeria Limited. And we also have those who are providing the lunch and the snacks and all the goodies. Creative
Fingers, Cakes and Bites in Live Camp, as well as Number One Hotel and 3J's Hotel and Apartment.
Yeah, 3J's Hotel supporters are the first time and they're back to support season 2 also. We thank you all for your incredible support towards this debate. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have the next set of debaters in the studio with us. Stay with us.
Nigeria Info's I Beg to Differ student debate tournament is now in the round of 16. And we're shaking things up. Some of the best losers are back as wildcards. Ready to prove they belong in the competition. But from this stage,
this is Nigeria